Have you ever wondered how everything began? Before the oceans, the mountains, and the stars, there was nothing. Not even time existed. But then, in a moment of absolute power, God spoke, and the entire universe began. The creation of the world was an astonishing event that happened in 7 days. Each day, God did something incredible, from light and sky to animals and humans. Today, we will discover how God created everything that exists. Like this video and subscribe if you love Bible stories. Now, let's begin. In the beginning, there was nothing. No sky, no earth, no stars, no sun. Only an abyss of absolute darkness. No sounds, no shapes, no time. Just an immense void. An eternal silence. But then, in a moment of infinite power, God spoke. His voice shattered the nothingness, and with a single command, the history of the universe began. Let there be light. And at that moment, the darkness was torn apart by a dazzling radiance. Light appeared out of nowhere, illuminating everything with a brilliant glow. For the first time, something existed in the midst of the void. A powerful, shining, infinite flash. The chaos was divided. Light and darkness were no longer one. God separated light from the shadows, giving each a purpose. He called the light day and the darkness night. Thus, the first evening and the first morning of all history passed. The first day had ended. The universe had begun. But there were still many things left to create. This was only the first step in the greatest work ever accomplished. Have you ever wondered how God organized the universe? After creating light and separating day from night, the world was still in chaos. There was no sky, no air, no space between the waters. Everything was an endless, deep, and chaotic ocean covering all of creation. There was no above or below, only a vast abyss of water stretching as far as the eye could not see. But God was not finished. Something incredible was about to happen. Then, God spoke again. Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And in that instant, an invisible force began to move the waters. As if a great divine hand was parting them, the waters below were separated from the waters above. A new space appeared, the sky. For the first time, air filled creation. The atmosphere began to form, creating the space where birds would someday fly and where the wind would blow. The firmament stretched like an invisible veil, dividing the oceans from the upper waters, those that would remain suspended high above. Clouds began to take shape, the heavens expanded into their vastness, and the planets started to come into order. From that moment, the earth and the skies were separate. The atmosphere was established, ready for the next days of creation. And God saw that it was good. Thus, the second evening and the second morning passed. The second day of creation had ended. But there were still many things left to be created. The world was still transforming. On the first day, God created light and separated day from night. On the second day, He formed the sky and divided the waters above and below. But the world still had no dry land. Everything was covered by an endless ocean, a vast abyss of water stretching in all directions. There were no mountains, no valleys, no rivers, no trees, just infinite water. But God had a perfect plan, and something incredible was about to happen. Then, God spoke again. Let the waters under the heavens be gathered into one place, and let dry land appear. At that moment, the water began to move with unstoppable force. Gigantic waves rose and receded, as if an invisible hand was pushing them aside. The oceans retreated, and from their depths, dry land emerged. What was once hidden beneath the deep was now revealed to the universe. First, hills and mountains rose majestically from the ocean floor. Massive rocks surfaced, forming valleys and canyons. Rivers began to carve their paths through the newly formed land, winding through hills and plains. The coastlines took shape, separating the land from the sea. For the first time, the planet had shape, had ground, had a firm foundation where life would one day flourish. But the dry land was still bare. There was no green, no shade, no life. Only rocks, dust, and moving water. Then, God spoke again, bringing the second part of this miraculous day. Let the earth bring forth vegetation, plants bearing seeds and trees bearing fruit according to their kind. And before the eyes of the universe, life began to bloom. From the dry land, the first green shoots sprouted. At first, tiny grasses covered the barren ground like a fresh carpet stretching over hills and valleys. Then, bushes and flowers of every color began to blossom, bringing beauty and fragrance to the world. The tallest trees grew rapidly, stretching their branches toward the blue sky, as if reaching for the firmament that God had created the day before. The land transformed into a paradise. The valleys were filled with lush green fields and endless meadows. The mountains now had forests, their slopes covered with trees swaying in the wind. The first fruit trees appeared, bearing juicy, sweet fruits, with seeds ready to multiply. For the first time, the planet had color, had fragrance, had life. The air was no longer empty. Now, the scent of flowers and fruit filled it completely. Leaves swayed gently in the breeze, fields stretched to the horizon, and the earth pulsed with the energy of creation. God looked at his work and saw that it was good. Everything was in its place. Dry land was established, covered in vegetation, prepared for what was to come next. Thus, the third evening and the third morning passed. The third day of creation had ended, but there were still many wonders left to be revealed. So far, creation had been wonderful. God had separated the light from the darkness, placed the skies above the earth, and filled the land with mountains, rivers, and lush fields. But even though everything was taking shape, something was missing. The world had day and night, but the sky was still empty. There was no great light to rule the day, nor a lamp to shine in the night. The heavens were calm, but they did not yet hold the wonders we know today. Then God spoke again. Let there be lights in the firmament of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark the seasons, the days, and the years. At that moment, something amazing happened. Suddenly, a light appeared high in the sky. But it was no ordinary light. It was brilliant, powerful, blazing. It was the sun, a massive sphere of fire and energy, placed perfectly to illuminate the earth and bring warmth. The world, which had previously only known a diffused brightness, was now fully bathed in light. The sun's rays touched the mountains, made the rivers sparkle, and gave life to the meadows. The shadows of trees stretched across the land, and the heat of the day brought a new sensation to creation. The world now had a great beacon in the sky to rule the day. But as the light faded beyond the horizon, God's work was not yet done. The moment the sun disappeared, a new light rose in the heavens. It did not have the sun's scorching heat, but its glow was serene, majestic, and peaceful. God had created the moon, the nighttime beacon that would bring light in the midst of darkness. But that was not all. God filled the sky with countless stars. At first, just a few appeared, like tiny flickering lights in the vastness of space. Then, more and more began to shine, until millions of them adorned the celestial dome. Constellations took shape, the Milky Way stretched across the sky like a river of light, and each star seemed to tell a story. Some shone with intense brilliance, others twinkled softly in the distance, but together they created an indescribable spectacle. For the first time, the world had a night sky filled with wonders. The stars were not just beautiful, they would serve as signs. They would mark the passing of time, the changing of seasons, and guide travelers across the vastness of the earth. God had placed the sun to rule the day and the moon to illuminate the night, with a starry sky as a testimony to his greatness. The universe, once dark and empty, now shone with light, order, and purpose. And God looked at all he had made, and he saw that it was good. Thus, the evening and the morning of the fourth day passed. But God's work was not yet complete. The most astonishing wonders were yet to come. Before this day, God had shaped the heavens and the earth, separated light from darkness, and formed the oceans and dry land. He created mountains, rivers, valleys, and seas, and adorned the sky with the sun, the moon, and the stars. The world was beautiful, but it was silent. There was no life, no movement, no sound, until the fifth day arrived. God looked upon the earth and spoke with power. "Let the waters be filled with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth, across the sky." Immediately, the waters began to stir. From the depths of the ocean, creatures never seen before emerged. Massive whales surfaced, sending towering jets of water into the sky. Playful dolphins leaped through the waves, while stealthy sharks glided through the deep. The seas, once still and empty, now overflowed with life. Schools of colorful fish swam in perfect harmony, their shimmering scales reflecting the sunlight. Giant manta rays glided gracefully beneath the water, while glowing jellyfish floated like tiny living lanterns. In the coral reefs, thousands of species found their home. Tiny seahorses, color-changing octopuses, and camouflaged crabs hiding among the rocks. The oceans and rivers were no longer just water. They were vibrant worlds filled with incredible creatures, each with its own unique design. But creation was not yet complete. Suddenly, something incredible happened in the skies. The air, once empty, filled with wings. The first birds took flight. Majestic eagles spread their powerful wings and soared high with grace. Hawks dived at astonishing speeds. Seagulls danced above the waves, while colorful parrots streaked across the sky in brilliant flocks. The world, once silent, was now filled with sound. The songs of birds echoed in every corner. Tiny hummingbirds hovered over flowers, beating their wings at incredible speeds. Wise owls watched from the trees, patiently waiting for nightfall. In every part of creation, life flourished, not just in the oceans and skies, but also in lakes, rivers, and wetlands. In fresh waters, vibrant fish swam among water lilies, while frogs leaped gracefully from leaf to leaf. The skies and the seas were now alive. God had filled his creation with movement, color, and sound. And when God saw all that he had made, he saw that it was good. But God didn't just create these creatures, he blessed them. He gave them a purpose. "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds multiply upon the earth." And so, life began to spread across the world. The oceans became a vibrant home, and the skies were filled with birds soaring across creation. Thus, the evening and the morning of the fifth day passed. But God's work was not yet finished. The most astonishing part of creation was yet to come, and it would arrive the next day. Since the beginning of time, God had been preparing something magnificent. For 5 days, with just the power of his word, he had shaped the entire universe. The heavens were filled with twinkling stars, the sun illuminated the day, and the moon shone at night. The oceans teemed with life, rivers flowed with crystal-clear waters, and lush green fields stretched as far as the eye could see. But God's plan was not yet complete. The sixth day dawned, and God spoke once again, and everything changed. "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, wild animals, and creatures that crawl on the ground." And in an instant, the earth began to tremble with life. The roars of lions echoed through the jungle. Majestic elephants walked with grace, their trunks reaching toward the sky. Swift gazelles raced across the plains, while powerful bison thundered through the fields in an awe-inspiring stampede. Horses galloped freely, their manes flowing in the wind. Giraffes stretched their long necks to reach the highest leaves. In the deserts, camels stood ready to travel great distances without rest, and deep in dark caves, bats fluttered their wings for the first time. The skies filled with birds of every color and size, while on the ground, ants, beetles, and tiny insects began their silent labor. From mighty bears in the mountains to the smallest field mice, each creature had a purpose, a design, a place in creation. God looked upon the animals he had made, and he saw that it was good. But something was still missing. The sixth day would not only be the day God filled the earth with creatures. It would be the day he created his masterpiece. The most important moment of creation was about to take place. With an indescribable love, God did not simply speak this next creation into existence. He formed it with his own hands. He took dust from the ground and began to shape a figure. Every detail, every feature, every part was crafted with absolute perfection. And when his work was complete, God did something he had not done with any other being. He breathed into its nostrils the breath of life. And in that moment, the first man opened his eyes. He took his first breath and gazed upon the world around him. But he was unlike any other living creature. He was unique. God had made him in his own image and likeness. He had a soul, understanding, the ability to think, to feel, to create, and to rule over the earth. God blessed him and gave him a mission. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every living thing that moves on the earth. But soon, God saw something important. The man was alone. The skies were filled with birds in flocks, the ocean swarmed with fish swimming together, the fields had herds and families of animals. But man, the most precious creation of God, had no one beside him. So, with infinite wisdom, God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he slept, God took one of his ribs, and from it, he formed the first woman. When the man awoke and saw her, he felt something he had never felt before. She was part of him, bone of his bones, flesh of his flesh. And at that moment, the first union, the first love, the first family was born. God blessed them and entrusted them with the entire creation. The whole world was their home, and they would be the caretakers of everything God had made. Thus, with the creation of mankind, God completed his work. The sky, the earth, the seas, the stars, the plants, the animals, and now humanity, created in the image and likeness of their Creator. And when God saw all that he had made, he did not just say it was good. He said it was very good. So the evening and the morning passed, the sixth day. Since the beginning of time, God had spoken, and the universe had obeyed. With just his voice, light had pierced through the darkness. The heavens stretched above, the oceans roared below, and the earth stood firm in the middle, waiting to be filled with life. Day by day, God's creative power had shaped the world. He had made the land burst forth with trees of every kind, some tall and mighty, others small and delicate, their branches heavy with sweet, delicious fruit. Fields bloomed with flowers of every color, filling the air with their fragrance. The mountains stood strong, rivers flowed freely, and the sky took on hues of endless blue. God had set the sun in place, blazing with golden light, to rule over the day. And as the sun set, the moon and stars appeared, shining like precious jewels against the vast night sky. The oceans had come alive with creatures of all shapes and sizes. Majestic whales gliding through the deep, playful dolphins leaping over the waves, schools of fish flashing silver as they swam together. The air was filled with the beating of wings, as eagles soared high above and hummingbirds flitted among the flowers. On the land, God had brought forth mighty lions, gentle deer, towering elephants, and swift cheetahs. The earth teemed with life, every creature with a place and a purpose. And on the sixth day, God created his masterpiece, humanity. With his own hands, he formed the first man from the dust of the earth and breathed into him the breath of life. Man was different from all the other creatures. He carried the image of God within him. And then, from the man's side, God formed the first woman, creating a perfect companion, completing his most cherished creation. Everything was perfect. And then, the seventh day arrived. But this day would be different, because on this day, God did something completely unexpected. He stopped, not because he was tired. How could the creator of the universe, the one who never sleeps, never weakens, never fades, ever grow weary? God rested, not out of exhaustion, but as an example. The Bible says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. God could have kept creating. He could have spoken more wonders into existence, added more colors to the sky, more stars to the heavens, more beauty to the world. But he didn't. Instead, he blessed this day and set it apart. It wasn't just another day. It was a day of completion, of peace, of reflection. Can you imagine that moment? The entire world stood still in perfect harmony. The sky was bright and clear, the rivers flowed gently, and a soft breeze whispered through the trees. The animals rested under the shade, the birds sang peacefully, and Adam and Eve walked together in the beauty of creation. There was no chaos, no rushing, no striving. Just the presence of God, and a world that was whole, complete, perfect. This was the first Sabbath. The first day where work ceased, where creation paused, and where God looked upon all that he had made. And it was good. But this day wasn't just about what God had done, it was about what he wanted us to remember. God knew that humanity would work, that we would toil, that we would chase after things and exhaust ourselves in the process. So he gave us a gift, a reminder that we are not just created to work, but to rest, to stop, to breathe, to reflect, to recognize that life is not just about doing, it's about being. From that day forward, the seventh day became a symbol, a sign that God's work was complete, that his creation was enough, and that true fulfillment comes not from what we accomplish, but from resting in him. The Sabbath was not a burden, it was a blessing, a sacred moment, a holy day, a divine pause. And with this, creation was finished. The heavens, the earth, the seas, the stars, the creatures, and now a day of rest, a day where God himself stopped and invited us to do the same. And so, as the sun set and the stars filled the sky, the seventh day came to a close. The world was at peace. Creation was whole, and God saw all that he had made, and it was very, very good. And so, at the end of 7 days, God's work was complete. From the light that shattered the darkness to the sacred rest of the seventh day, every detail of the universe was designed with purpose and love. The sun and the moon, the oceans and the skies, every great and small creature, all reflect the greatness of our Creator. But the most amazing thing of all is that God also created us. We were not made by chance. We are not a mistake. We were created in his image, with a purpose, with a calling, with a destiny. Every star in the sky, every wave in the sea, every beat of our hearts, reminds us that we were designed by a God who loves us. But there is something we must not forget. God did not just create the world. He wants us to care for it. He wants us to value his creation, to appreciate the beauty around us, and to live with gratitude and awe. Everything that exists, from the smallest detail to the vastest universe, is a testimony of God's love and power. But in the busyness of our lives, we sometimes forget to stop and marvel at his work. We worry, we get distracted, we forget that everything we have comes from him. That is why, at the end of this story, I want to invite you to do something together. Let's take a moment to pray and thank God for his incredible creation. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of creation. Thank you for the light, for the sky, for the earth, for every animal, every plant, every star in the heavens. Thank you because every detail of this world reveals your love and power. You made us in your image, you gave us a purpose, and you called us to care for this beautiful world. Help us to see it with gratitude, to treat it with respect, and to always remember that everything we have comes from you. Lord, teach us to rest in you, just as you rested on the seventh day. Help us to trust in your plan, to pause in the midst of chaos, and to remember that you are in control. May every day of our lives be an opportunity to glorify you and live according to your purpose. And now, I want to invite you to do something important. If this story touched you, don't leave without showing your support. Like this video so that more people can discover this incredible story. Write in the comments, "Thank you, God, for creation," to show that you value His work. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss more stories like this. Because this is just the beginning. God still has so much more to tell us. See you in the next video.